Hi, welcome back to Bake It Mum at hampshirecookerydemonstrations.co.uk. Today is the first of our Wing It days, where I'm going to try and make something that I've seen. Not quite sure what it was, but I tried a sample of it yesterday and it was delicious. So I'm going to call it my fry pie because I promised last week that I was going to do that. And the reason that it's called fry pie goes back a long time in our family when my mum always used to make fly pie, but my dad was watching Fry and Laurie, I think it was called, and shouted to the kitchen, "Can I have a slice of fry pie?" And ever since, that's what it's always been called. So what is fry pie? It's a new invention, I think, copied from the cake that I tasted yesterday at the Loaf Bakery in Farnham. So what I think it is a layer of pastry with a layer of sweet mincemeat, like you would put in mince pies. So we're going back to Christmas in March, covered with a sponge and some icing. That's what I think it is. So we're going to give it a try. I'm going to wing it, as we say. So the first thing that we need to do is make the pastry for the bottom. Going back with the KitchenAid, but again, as always, you don't need a mixer. You can have a spoon and your hands and all that, but we know already I'm very lazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put into my mixer my flour. As always, the measurements are on the website. Icing sugar, because I want this to be a sweet pastry. There goes the cloud of mess. Let's just put this on here. The butter. Add that in, and 2 egg yolks. So this is going to make quite a bit of mess because of the icing sugar, because icing sugar is so messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover the mixer a little bit just to try and minimise the amount of mess going everywhere. Okay, so what we're doing is mixing that in until it's like a breadcrumb-like consistency, and then we'll add a little bit of fluid to bind it all together, and hopefully it should make a really nice short pastry. Not that I like doing it, but I have had to go back to the old traditional greasing and lining. This is just a roasting tin that I'm wanting to use to make a tray bacon, basically. So what I'll do is later, because I'm not sure of the exact measurements, is I will measure this tin and put the measurement of it on the website. But as I've mentioned, I'm making this up as I go along, so it may be that you have a different tin, and I'm sure it will work just as well. So we will see. Right, that seems to have stopped clouding everywhere. And as I said, we want like a breadcrumb-like consistency, which we've now got. I'll show you that in a second. Gosh, what a mess. Okay, so just like breadcrumbs. In fact, it's finer actually. That feels lovely. I think this is going to make a really nice pastry. Okay, so we're going to put the arm down now. And I've got here a half-half mixture of water and milk. There's 100 ml in there, so 50 grams of each. And I'm just going to gently start pouring it in. I don't think we're going to need to put all of this in, but that's what I've measured out. So it's a case of just trial and error, really, but it all binds together into a nice dough. A little bit more in, and that's going to do it, I think. So with any pastry that you make, finish that off. Okay. With any pastry that you make, you always want to put it into the fridge for at least quarter of an hour to get it ready to roll. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a pastry that's too difficult to manage. You need to cool it down a little bit. So, as you can see, we've got a nice pastry in there. What I'll do is I'm just going to tip it out onto a slightly floured surface, which is floured because of the mess that was made when it was all thrown in. That's going to be really nice. It smells lovely. So we've got a nice pastry there. I'm going to wrap that in cling film and stick it in the fridge and get on with getting all the stuff together ready for the sponge to go on top. So, so I'll be back with you in a little while once I've got all that ready and that's been in the fridge for a bit. So speak to you soon. Hi, welcome back to Bake It Mum, where this is the second part of our fry pie demonstration. So we've got the pastry in the fridge, and what we need to do now is make the sponge, which is really, really simple. The measurements will be on the website as normal. You might want to close your eyes now as you see how much butter goes in this. Not good. Not good for those of us that need to watch our weight. But that's just cakes. Can't get away from it. So what I like to do, a lot of sponge recipes, you can just bung it all in and it'll all be fine. But I like to mix the sugar and the flour together and get those creams. Okay, you want to do it till it's nice and fluffy, my favourite word. Which one of these mixes doesn't take very long. If you're using your arm, it might take a bit longer. Okay, as I said earlier, I have grease and lined the tin. I always like to run a little bit of butter just on top of the grease paper, just to ease it all a little bit later on. So just to give that a good old blast. Okay. And you'll remember from last time that with any egg mix, I like to put in some flour first because otherwise it can tend to curdle. So I'm just going to put in 1 egg at a time. This recipe has 3 eggs. So I'm going to put 1 egg and 2 spoons of the flour. Give it a mix. Second egg in. And again, 2 spoons of the flour. This recipe's got 3 eggs, and it's got 225 grams of flour, self-raising butter and sugar with the 3 eggs. Final one in. And just gradually get in the rest of that sugar. Because I want it to be a really nice, highly risen cake, I've added some baking powder as well. Okay, so there we go, we've got all our flour in and that's mixing really nicely together. I also like to put in a bit of vanilla extract. This is really nice quality one, but you can get the basic one just from the supermarket. Sure, it doesn't make that much difference. Okay, so unlike normal traditional mince pies where we would be having a mince pie tin and cutting things out, what I want to do is roll my pastry so that I can lay it on here because I want it to be more like a tray bake. So if I just push the mixer out of the way, move this so that you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. You can't see me either. Don't know which is more important, seeing me or seeing the pastry. Now I had left in one of those bowls just a little bit of the icing sugar just to put onto the work surface. Okay, so we've got the pastry there, it's all ready to roll. Got a nice rolling pin, and off we go. Now what I'm after here is I want a nice thick base. This is not a traditional mince pie. I want the base to be a big part of the actual cake itself. So it's not about getting it as thin as possible. This is a lovely sweet pastry and we want a lot of it. And we're just going to line the bottom of the tin for this, so we just want to get it to the right shape so that it'll slot in the bottom. Okay. So it's a bit rough around the edges, but then that's fine. That's great. So this is almost like a pie, I suppose. Nice and thick in the bottom of this pan, like so. So it just looks like a pie case really. Not a very professional looking pie case, but a pie case. So now we need to add the Christmas in nearly March. And I have 2 jars left over from Christmas, which I hadn't really given much thought to until I tasted this cake yesterday. And it was strange to taste a cake that was so Christmassy in a time when it's not Christmas, but it did make me realise we don't use this mixture as much as we should, because it is really lovely and we don't just have to have it at Christmas. Okay, so I made this in probably about November last year, and it keeps really well. So I'm just going to spoon this onto the bottom of the pie case. I do hope I'm not throwing all this in the bin later because it's horrible, but there's enough butter, sugar and flour for it not to be. It was quite delicate in the cake yesterday. I felt it could have maybe stood the test and a bit more, but time will tell. I'm going to use up this jar just because I may as well use it up. Okay, so I've given this a really good liberal covering, using up everything that I've got left in my jar. Probably, I would say, because I haven't measured it, I would say there'd be a good 250 grams of mincemeat in here. Obviously, very few of you are going to have this ready-made in jars left over from Christmas, but you can still buy good quality stuff in the supermarket. Okay, so that's now full of my Christmas mincemeat, and all we're going to do now is add the sponge, hope for the best. So let's just take this out. Excuse my fingers. Again, no little ones around here for licking bowls out, so we're just going to have to wash it. Not that we don't wash it anyway, but anyway. So this is just a normal sponge cake mix. Just going to give it one last mix around. And what we're going to do after the cake's out of the oven and cooled is we'll be icing it. Just with a really thin layer of icing. So, here goes. This is just going to be calorific, if that's the right word. Calorie laden, that's what I'm going for. I think it'll have to substitute either dinner or tea if you're going to have a slice of this. But hey, we're pretending it's Christmas, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I've got all that on there now. I don't think it matters if we leave a bit in the tin, because, like I said, this is a heart attack waiting to happen. Okay. Excuse the finger licking. So before I came back on to the video, I turned the oven on to about 180 degrees, and I'm hoping that this cake, well, I'm anticipating that this cake's going to take about half an hour. As with any cake, especially sponge, what you're looking for is for the skewer to come out nice and clean. So there you have it. One improvised fly pie going in the oven. Fingers crossed. So like I said, I think it's going to be about half an hour, so I'm going to clean up and then I'll come back with you and we'll see what we've got. All the details will be on the website. Speak to you soon. Hi, welcome back. Right, longer than half an hour has passed. It's been about 45 minutes and the cake is still in the oven. I think the problem is that the recipe that I made for the sponge was what I would make for a normal sort of Victoria sponge. So in actual fact, I've sort of got double the cake on top of there and I'm struggling to get it cooked. But it's starting to smell like it's ready, and I'm going to take it out of the oven because I don't want it to burn. So we're just going to have a go and see. It does look nice. Okay, you see it's lovely and golden brown, but the colour is starting to turn, so I wouldn't really want to leave it much longer. Just going to stir out and see this light shut on the door. That's actually fine. That's fine. So what I'm going to do now, sorry, let you see the cake. What I'm going to do now is let that cool, and then I'm going to get a really thin icing. I want to make it so it's really quite runny, and I can't find it at the moment. I'm going to get my pastry brush and paint some icing all over the top, but that needs to cool first. So time to take the dogs for a walk, and then I'll be back with you in about an hour and a half, doesn't really matter, just when this cake's cooled, and then I'll be able to taste a slice and let you know what it's like. Back with you in a bit. Bye. Hi, welcome back. Right, we've got our cake. I'm very proud, very proud. Here it is. Looks lovely. Okay, so what we want to do is ice it. Again, I'm sort of making this up as I go along. And because I've got lots of oranges, well, small oranges, I think, I'm going to make up my icing with oranges rather than water, because there's nothing more Christmassy, though it's not Christmas, than oranges, I don't think. So I'm trying not to make too much mess with this icing. Cover that over. Again, like with everything I've always said, you must sieve your icing sugar, otherwise you end up with lumps. Okay, so we're looking for a really quite thin, we don't want thick icing on this because we've already got lots going on with the base, with the pastry base, which has got icing sugar in, and the sweetness of the oranges. So we're not going to do too much. Okay, so I'm just going to get some juice out of these. I said they're only little, but I should be able to get enough. And then I'm going to eat it all by myself. Not going to give anybody any of it. Okay. As I said, I will put everything on the website when I've worked it out myself, because a lot of it has been sort of trial and error, really. It might not go on the website at all if I taste it and I don't like it. So it's a rare occurrence here, seeing me stirring rather than using the old mixer. Well, I wasn't expecting it to turn orange in colour, which is quite nice. I'm getting an orange icing. But looking at this is, whoop, that's all about. It's matter. This is possibly a little bit thicker than I would have liked. So let me see if there's somebody else. Is somebody there? Daft dog. Okay. Actually, I think this is probably perfect. So it's quite nice and runny and smooth. It smells lovely, nice and orangey. So all we're going to do now is put it on the cake. Now, am I going to drizzle or am I going to pour? I think for this I'm just going to drizzle, because I think that it probably just doesn't need that much more, so we're just going to stick with the drizzling. Just really random, really does not matter this bit. Okay. Can you see that? You can see that. Now you want to let this set for a little while before you get into it. Otherwise it will be a very messy cake. So it's nice with icing like this to just go on the edges, because then it will really sort of trickle down the sides. Okay, try not to let it spoon too much in the middle where it's sunk a bit. Okay, so there you have it, my first wing it recipe, fry pie cake. If I could send Stephen Fry a piece, I would, but I don't think he would take receipt. Anyway, I shall eat his slice. As always, the details will be found on the website, which is hampshirecookerydemonstrations.co.uk or bakeitmum.co.uk, whichever's easiest. I'll see you next time. Bye.